Hello and welcome to something new from the APM PMO SIG. We're going to do something called PMO Conversations, and hopefully this will be something that we do quite regularly. One of the things that we wanted to try and do was understand a little bit more about the kind of people that are interested in PMOs and the kind of people that want to be part of the PMO SIG. So this is our first one, and I'd love to introduce our first willing victim. We've got Benedict Pinches here with us today, and Benedict is an experienced PMO manager, program manager, portfolio manager. Mainly his experience has been in the utilities sector. More recently, Benedict has created his own business called Oxford Major Programs, which, obviously as the name suggests, focuses on major programs. Oxford Major Programs combines academic research and practical expertise to provide innovative approaches to assist organisations to better manage their major complex programs. So I think it sounds like Benedict's going to have a lot of interesting insights for us today. Benedict also holds a master's degree from Saïd Business School in Major Programme Management, and is also a committee member for the APM Thames Valley Branch as well. Hello, Benedict.
Hi, Lindsay.
And how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much for volunteering to be our first person on a PMO conversation. Let's start off. I mean, this is one of the common things that we tend to get at conferences all the time. PMOs, what exactly are they? And often when we have conversations with people, PMOs mean different things to different people. So when I talk about PMOs to you,
yes,
what's your initial thoughts? How do you define them?
Okay, well, I think the key thing for me is the management bit. So the PMO as opposed to PSO, and I like to think of a PMO as being, I think the best analogy is being a support team for a racing car. So if you think of Formula One, you've got a program manager or program director as being the actual racing driver, maybe doing the strategy or whatever. But the PMO team are the pit stop, are the people that are changing the tyres, so they're making sure that the car actually goes and that it actually responds to what the program manager wants. Mm-hmm. And in my view, just as important as the person actually driving the car in the first place. Okay,
so it's interesting that you've not gone for a definition that, when I do it,
yeah.
is I suppose I generally go into it's about supporting projects, programs, portfolios,
yeah,
and then so on.
Well, I think generally the program management offices that I've been involved in most have been on large change programs, but I think you can have a PMO that is a business PMO as well, and I think, as I say, the important thing for me is where it sits in the organisation. I think that's absolutely key. I think the PMO is more dependent on the organisation structure than almost any other aspect of project management.
I mean, I suppose the other thing as well that we tend to talk a lot about in terms of PMOs is this concept of centre of excellence.
Yes.
And the best practice stuff. So just coming back to your analogy about the Formula One team, so the PMO is the pit stop worker. Does a pit stop worker have the best practice or not?
Unfortunately, I don't know. I should probably know more about Formula One to make that analogy, because I don't know. I don't know. But I would imagine that the Formula One, that drivers are working. I would imagine that the engineers that are working at that kind of level, at that peak of technical excellence, are skilled racing drivers themselves. They may not be the actual, the one in the hot seat on TV, but they will. I'm pretty sure they would be very, very competent around the track, and would know how to drive the car. So I think there is that knowledge of technical excellence, and to me that has to be part of what the PMO does.
It's interesting that when you were talking about your own experiences working around change, one of the conversations we've had a lot around the PMO recently is, can we not change the word or the acronym to CMO? Because actually what we're doing a lot of the time is supporting change in an organisation. So getting away from whether it be project, program level or portfolio, if you call it a CMO, it is then very obvious that that's what they're there to support. So regardless of what level, they're supporting that change.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the same function called different things in different organisations. I had had a thing called the PSU, which is the Program Support Unit, and various riffs around that kind of those three-letter acronyms. And I think it doesn't matter so much what it's called. It's like the project program debate, which can run and run with our American friends, in terms of what's a program mean. And I don't think what I think is important is that people are clear about what the function of the PMO or CMO is, and that clarity, as I say, I think comes from the organisation structure and at what level the PMO are operating, and the kind of services that they are providing. I think is that's the key thing for me.
Can you give me some examples from your own experience? I suppose the kind of PMOs that you've been involved in, what kind of services did they offer, and so on, just so we can get a better feel for that.
Sure. I mean, you mentioned Centre of Excellence, and that's obviously very much tied in with methodologies and tools and techniques and processes and things. I was responsible for a startup PMO for a telco startup, which was part of National Grid some years ago, and that was quite interesting because we had free rein to sort of like, we could build it how we wanted, kind of thing, and it was a very fast-moving, program-focused organisation, and that involved actually developing the methodology. So that became a centre of excellence de facto, because the people that were actually developing, using Prince2, using these good things that were out there to develop our own company methodology, then became the experts at it. So, but that was quite a unique situation, because you don't often get a totally sort of greenfield site like that where people can just walk in and actually do their own thing. Well,
that was going to be one of my follow-ups to that, because when you're talking about a number of years ago, that's obviously before things like P3O have come onto the scene. Right. And I think many people that are working within PMOs, it'd be interesting to see how many people think P3O is actually helping them, or actually is it taking away a bit of, I'm sure when you were doing it, there was a bit of creativity in there as well, because there was no guidance.
Completely, and I mean, I was very lucky that back in 1996, I was asked to set up what was actually more of a PSO, and there was nothing out there. I mean, there was OGC sort of conceptual documentation, which was very interesting. But when I started looking around, I was working at the Highways Agency in government at the time. When I started looking around to see where examples of these PSOs were, there weren't any. So it was a very different time, and I think things have moved on a lot. And I think that's great. The work that the PMO SIG and stuff are doing is fantastic. And the conference that that I went to a few months ago it just showed the level of interest and the level of focus, and that's really good. But yeah, it is different. I think for me, one of the challenges, I think, in the world of PMO is providing services based on knowledge of methodologies and techniques and tools and things, while also being creative. And I think that's important to have both. And I think people can be a little bit inhibited by, as you say, the P3O stuff, and there's all these books telling us it's Prince2, but if it's Prince2 we can't do this. Whereas actually I think there needs to be that level of confidence to say, well, I've been doing this for 10 years, I know that for this organisation I can miss that bit out actually, because it's not going to matter. And I think that's really important for strong support staff to realise, because I think it's a bit like everybody wants to be the racing driver. Coming back to that, everybody would like to aspire to be the person driving the car, and I think that's not the most important job. They're all the jobs are important, and I think it's really key for people to see that they need to be confident. They need to be able to be creative, even if they feel that their role is more supportive.
It's interesting from just looking at your career, because obviously you worked at PMO, program manager, and portfolio manager, and obviously my personal opinion about this is that to be a good PMO manager, a good portfolio manager, that you must have done some delivery type experienced role before, so whether that be a project manager or a program manager.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that to be able to take on a large, complex PMO, whether that, whatever it is, and project and all the way up to portfolio, and you've done that. Does it help you when it comes to PMO work that actually you have got this strong program management background as well?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we at Oxford Major Programs try and encourage clients to think about is that if they've got strong program managers within their organisation, to think about rotating that round so that there is a stint of time that they all do as PMO managers, because I think it's extremely beneficial, really, really good for their career development and for the organisation's development as well. I think one of the things, certainly in change programs, which is a really bad sort of reflex action that organisations go through, is they have a change program, they've got some people that they're not sure what to do with, and then the change program starts up, and you've got, oh, we need to have a program office. That's kind of mainly administrative, isn't it? Let's put these people that we're not sure what to do with, let's put them in there, which is a completely idiotic thing to do, because if you want the change to work, if you want it to work, you want the really good people in there, and you want the people who are going to have the confidence to move things forward. So I'm really strong advocate of moving and project managers, program managers, and rotating them around and saying to them, well, I think it'd be really good for you to spend a year in PMO, work on that, develop something within that, and then leave and see how what you've developed can be used in practice.
No, it is one of them. The reason why I went like that, because it just drives you mad, and it doesn't matter who you talk to in any part of the world, everybody does it, and it becomes like a dumping ground for. I'm not belittling anybody that has found themselves in that situation, because I do believe that for each individual, whatever skill sets they've got should be harnessed in the right way. And sometimes a lot of PMO people find themselves suddenly, in this PMO when actually I've never done this kind of stuff before, and that it starts to reflect badly on the the whole concept of a PMO and
that's right.
But let's talk about positives. So, from your experiences, then, what's been the most successful service or function that a PMO type structure might provide in a major change program environment?
Okay, I think the most valuable function was actually when I was working in portfolio management in National Grid in the IS area, and it was specifically in the asset management area there. And we had a team of people who were supported by a very able, small PMO, but a very able PMO. And that PMO is all about actually giving us the information in an easy to access way to make decisions in terms of which projects went forward and which projects didn't. So it was strategic. It was producing recommendations. It wasn't just producing a report that that said this one's late and this one hasn't started yet, and it was actually saying this is the situation on the ground. This is the milestones that have been missed. These are potentially the benefits that are not going to be realised. This is a scenario that you could look at, etc. And that was obviously immensely helpful. I mean, it was manual, which was frustrating. We didn't have many people in the PMO, so they were very busy, and a lot of the scenario building stuff, took them quite a long time to do. But I think it added such a lot of value to that organisation, and it allowed the portfolio review meetings to just be about reviewing different options rather than saying, what on earth do we do? I've got no idea what direction to go in here. There was already some options there, which was very good, really.
I got a hint of something in your answer there that unfortunately it was manual. Yeah. Are you an advocate for software in any way then?
I'm not I'm not over the top in terms of software. The reason I say that is because I don't think there is enough support tools out. There are enough support tools out there for the jobs that are done by the PMO and indeed by program managers of large programs. It frustrates me that the projectification of work has increased, and there's more and more of these things, and yet the tools that we use to manage them have stayed the same. And I think there's a strong argument for these very useful, very good tools, MS Project, all of these fantastic things. Obviously, spreadsheets, where would you be without them? But I think that, given the advances in technology, which I know, Lindsay, you sort of take advantage of, there are more things out there that could be developed, I feel, to help PMOs. And certainly in terms of producing scenarios now, there are some very good things that you can do in Microsoft Project Enterprise and various other things that can actually produce these things a lot better than the way that we did them, which was very manual.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the last, I don't know, it was a conference a few years ago. We asked what was the vast majority of, what is it a tool use, and yeah, it's Excel.
Yeah.
Some weird and wonderful spreadsheets that are many tabs long, and and all the rest of it. But yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think part of the problem as well is that a lot of organisations have got their fingers burned by thinking there's a one-stop solution that doesn't get introduced into the organisation like a proper change project should be, and I think often it falls down, and that's the bad press that it gets. And but I suppose yeah, there's certainly room for improvement, I think, in that area. One of the things I'm really always been quite fascinated with. And you're probably an ideal candidate to talk to about this. The PMOs and the people that work within them can tend to be quite insular and quite internal looking in terms of, the services and the functions that they provide. And you often wish you could get into the project manager's head or the program manager's head as to actually what do they really think of this PMO and the services that we're offering. You've worked a lot more in program management. So, what's been your thoughts as you've gone through your, I suppose, your career about the PMOs that you've worked with? Have they been good on the whole, or not?
I would say, in all honesty, I would say mixed. I would say there have been some that have been exceptional, some very good ones. There have been others that haven't been so good, and the ones that I've looked to on the positive side, the ones that I've looked to that have been very good, are the ones that understand that the process and the methodology isn't an end to itself, so that there's flexibility around that. I've been in quite a number of conversations with people where I've sort of said, I've gone up at status reporting time, for instance, and somebody's been ringing one of the project managers delivering into me and bothering them for status report when I know that actually that they're flat out with something very complex, and I've had to go to the PMO and say, look, please don't ring him anymore, because I understand what's going on, and I know what you're trying to do, but it's not helping. And the people that I've obviously warmed to have been the people that have completely understood that and sort of said, and the people that have said, well, it says here that I need to get the report in, and that can be quite a frustrating thing. And you're right, I think there is a little bit of there's a bit of a draw to that, in terms of a job role. Some people will see a PMO role and say, well, I'm good at that. I like that kind of stuff because I like structure, and I like process, and I know all about Prince 2. I've got my exam and everything else. And yes, there is a need for that. There is a very strong need for that. But that flexibility needs to be there too. And I think that's something that you can't get from an exam or anything else. And you need to work with the people that you're delivering
Yeah, I've always thought what's lacking is in the PMO space is thinking about a program of development. That yes, okay, like you're saying, it's easy to look at the process and the techniques, just like it is in project management. To be
Yeah.
a project manager, there's a lot of stuff out there that allows you to get to grips with the technical aspects of it. Same with PMO, but there doesn't seem to be a focus on. And I hate the term, but it's the softer skills side of stuff. Because it sounds to me what you're talking about there, that actually it was about communication and relationship building with you, that you probably prefer.
And empathy with the project managers. So rather than going in and saying, right, it's us versus them, we've got to do battle here. It's a question of, okay, well, I understand you're up against it, so I'll have a word with Ben, and we won't mind about the report this week. It's that kind of, but understanding when to do that, and not just being an open door, so we go, oh right, we'd have to do our reports, then that's fine. It's a difficult balance. I mean, it's not easy.
Well, I think for PMO, it's about the technical bit. It's the people aspect bit, but I also believe it's they need to be understanding a little bit more about the business that they're in.
Well, increasingly, what I've found, especially in change, is communications is a really big feature of PMO. And often in a large organisation, the communications team won't be that big. They'll be under-resourced. They'll be doing a lot of communications to shareholders and the press and that kind of stuff. So they'll be very, very busy doing all of that kind of stuff in a change program. And actually communicating internally about the change and about the program is very often kind of left up to the PMO. And that's when you really do need what you said, those softer skills, but you do need a whole variety of things. You need to have the tools and the techniques and the sort of stakeholder analysis information that you can research, but you also need to have that ability to walk the floor and to understand that actually this area just aren't getting it at all. We keep putting posters up, we keep saying these things, but they don't understand what's happening. How can we make that better? And I think, as I say, I think that's going to become more important, really, that communication side, especially with social media and things like that. It's going to be more of a reliance on PMO to say, well, it's not enough to just send an email out. How can we ensure that these people actually get what we're doing?
Which is, I suppose, a nice lead into finishing off our conversation, because just thinking forward about how PMOs can get better at what it is that they do, and I totally agree with what you're saying. I'm kind of getting a hint of, and I love the subject about creativity and how we can do things differently and think differently about things. And I think the PMO plays really well positioned to bring some of this original thought into how can we better support change in an organisation, because in some ways it's almost, can we go back to 1996 where it was a greenfield site and there was no help? What would you do today if you didn't know about P3O, Prince 2, MSP and all that kind of good stuff? What do you think about going forward? Because obviously the business that you're in at the moment, you talk about academic research as part of your thing. So
I think you can still. I think it can still be a greenfield site, and program managers that I know would welcome somebody from the PMO coming and saying, look, I understand all this PMO, the stuff that I've learned and the stuff that I'm qualified for, but what about trying this, and what about doing this? And I think there would be a welcome attention paid to that. And I'm not saying it would necessarily be taken up, because it would depend on the context, but I think there is still room for that, and certainly with Oxford Major Programs, that's exactly what we're trying to work on. I mean, we are looking at producing additional tools for managing major programs. So these tools I would expect to be in the hands of people in the PMO. This is one of the reasons for my continued interest in PMOs, really, is that I think there are many other areas that they could get involved in terms of communication, stakeholder management, being able to produce these scenarios and being able to produce options for program managers in quite easy, straightforward, visual ways. I think is a big area, and it's an area that there's not a lot of people doing research in. So that's certainly where we're focused, and I hope that some of the stuff that we're doing now can benefit PMOs in years to come, really.
Okay, great. I mean, it's just, for me, it's a fascinating area. PMO, you know, is still such a really young area within a profession that is still quite young. So yeah, and I think, you know, like you're saying, I'm quite intrigued the fact that you don't think there's a lot of people out there that are looking for the you know, what is going to be the next thing, because we keep hearing all the time about, you know, the reason why PMOs fail, the reason why they shut down after 2 years is that they don't get the buy-in at a, you know, a senior level and all that kind of stuff.
I think it's almost a case of thinking of a PMO as a small startup company. You know, you've got to continually innovate, you know, and as soon as you get stale as a PMO, and as soon as you start thinking, okay, well, we've got all this buttoned down, you know, we're just turning the handle now, we've got the reports, we've got the risk processes, everybody knows what to do, and everybody's doing it, it's great, we can sit back and relax. As soon as you do that, of course, that's when senior management are going to say, what are they doing? They're not doing anything. You know, that's easy. You know, so you need to continually reinvent yourselves, and I think that's where the creativity bit comes in.
Well, you know, that's a spark of an idea for me. So anybody's out there that's interested in getting together to look at PMO as a startup type business and being innovative and all the rest of it, it'd be great to get a group of people around the table that will kind of share that vision and seeing, you know, because the bottom line is like, well, what can we do to be innovative? How can we change things? And I think hopefully things like the PMO SIG can bring people together to have that kind of conversation and to spark up ideas against each other, because, you know, different sectors are doing PMOs in different ways. And I think one of the things that doesn't happen a lot is this ability to benchmark against each other. And I hope that the PMO in 2013 can bring some of these people together and just seeing, you know, what can we share, what is there, what is new, what is innovative.
Yeah, I think so.
So thank you very much, Benedict. Tell us a little bit more about Oxford Major Programmes. If people want to find out a little bit more about what you're doing, because it's intriguing,
okay,
how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we've got a Facebook site. I tweet as OxMP, and we've also obviously got our website, so it's got email addresses and things on there. As I say, at the moment we're very much in research stage. We're producing a number of white papers, working with various academic groups, and also producing our first piece of software, which is called Pulse, which we hope to be out in the second quarter of next year. And I will definitely make sure that the PMO SIG sort of know all about it, and I'll sort of intend to use as many channels as I can to keep everybody up to speed. So thanks a lot for your interest. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. And if anybody else is interested in having a conversation, you can see that, you know, it was just a conversation. It's not difficult. If you'd like to have a go, we do it by Google Hangouts. It's pretty straightforward. You just need to give up an hour of your time. Don't be shy. Get in touch with us via the website, which you can see the address down there, and just have a look for the PMO SIG group. And yeah, thank you very much again, Ben, and see you again soon.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.